This is an incredible 4K 55-inch 3D TV. In the last video we did looking at this TV, we saw that it supports direct playback of 3D Blu-rays. All you have to do is put the Blu-ray disc in, and then it'll just pull up the menu in 3D directly. But what we didn't look at are some of the more specific things, like whether or not it supports 3D subtitles and in different languages. And we're going to take a look at that right now. And then after that, one of the other things a lot of people have been wondering is whether or not this 3D TV actually supports gaming in 3D. Specifically on the PlayStation 3, which has a whole collection of titles that support 3D. Not gonna waste any time, let's take a look and see how this stuff works. I'm gonna go and pick subtitles. I'm gonna set it to English. It's in Japanese right now, so it should work. These subtitles should display in English in 3D, but we're gonna see if it works right now. As you can see, the subtitles are working and they're in 3D. However, one of the problems with this TV is that when there gets to be extensive pop out, the image becomes less clear. The subtitles are a bit fuzzy, but it depends. Like, it kind of goes back and forth. Some of them have more pop out and some of them are more closer to the level of the screen, and the ones that are not popping out as far appear more clear, like this one. And this one is very clear. Come on, you can see clearly. There's no problem here. But sometimes when the subtitles pop out a little bit more, it just becomes less clear. I've had no trouble reading the subtitles even when they become blurred or fuzzy. It's a small price to pay to be able to watch amazing movies like this in 3D, like with no glasses, with other people. On this remote there's a button to directly swap subtitle language, so let's see if that works. If I switch it over to Japanese, now you can see the subtitles are displaying in Japanese but still in 3D. You can seamlessly switch back and forth between different languages that your Blu-ray supports. So whichever language you want to watch your 3D Blu-ray in, as long as your 3D Blu-ray has that language supported, the subtitles will display in 3D on this TV. In terms of 3D Blu-ray watching, it really does have everything that you could ask for. Next feature we didn't really look at before we take a look and see if games work on this properly is the 2D to 3D conversion in real time of anything that you're watching. That could be Netflix, or in this case we're going to take a look at YouTube and see if it actually does a respectable job with this 3D conversion. Obviously right now this is in 2D, but if I take this TV's remote and go to the menu, I can go to 3D mode and then switch it to 2D to 3D, and when you do that, as you can see, the menu becomes 3D, and it sort of works with mixed results. I'm just going to randomly play this video and see if it actually works. Alright, first thing is that we're getting an ad, and it's converting this ad into 3D in real time. And it's interesting because it is sort of 3D. It's not like completely not working, but at the same time it doesn't quite feel right. But you can see like these objects and text are clearly separated out, like this logo is out in front of the actual background. So without too much going on, this is basically just a video of scenery. It's working. The background is totally separated out from these buildings and the hills, and you can see a 3D effect clearly, and it looks pretty beautiful because of the size and the vibrance and brightness and clarity of this TV. So I think depending on the content that you choose, there is certainly stuff that this could deliver an enjoyable experience in 3D to you, which is great because that means you have access to a ton more content. Than you don't have to rely just on things that you purchase like 3D Blu-rays or games that you own. You can do this same thing when playing any game. If you're playing PlayStation 5 or your Xbox on this TV, you just activate this mode and it'll do the same thing for you. Again, if there's a lot of complicated details, it tends to not work out that well, but if it's a more simple style and something kind of like this, it's possible that it could look really great. Just from these ads alone, we can actually tell, like, in general, how good this conversion is, and I would say that some of the stuff looks better in 3D than it would if you just watched it in 2D. So this is not a completely useless feature, it's just that it doesn't give you quite the nuanced depth that Leia's conversion does, or some of the new conversion technology that's available on other stuff would. And I've tested it with actual Netflix TV shows. This specific feature actually does work with content that is digital rights protected. Like, you can watch something on Netflix and have it converted into 3D in real time. That actually isn't too terrible. It just gives you another option to enjoy different types of content on this TV. To finish off this video, we're going to switch over to the PlayStation 3 and see if 3D games actually run in 3D on this TV. I've got the PlayStation 3 running and hooked up, and I put in Gran Turismo 5. We're going to test out 3D gaming using 3 games today. The first one is the one I have right now, which is Gran Turismo 5. We have the Prince of Persia collection, so I'll try one of those in 3D, and then finish off with Sonic the Hedgehog and see how that looks in 3D. With these PlayStation 3 games, the important thing to know is that when you connect them to a 3D device, you've got to make sure you go into the game and and turn on the 3D settings. That's the first thing you need to do. Otherwise the game just isn't going to run in 3D. So we need to make sure we do that first. In this game we go to options. It has something called devices. If you scroll over to the side, you can see that there's an option called 3D TV, and you click on that, you make sure that the 3D TV mode is on, and then it has specific settings for you to adjust the level of depth and things like that. So it's actually pretty customizable in terms of how you can display the 3D. So here we go. You can see that I've started a race and it's actually running in 3D. And it looks pretty good. There's nice pop out, good depth into the distance where you see the mountains, and then this game is a pretty fast-paced game, but it still looks nice in 3D. So you can actually game with your PS3 in 3D on this TV. However, there are a couple things that you should keep in mind. One is that the resolution on these games is not the greatest, and that actually isn't really the fault of this TV. It's the fact that PS3 games only support 720p natively. It's an older console at this point, and resolution for TVs back at that time was not that high, so these games maxed out at 720p in 3D resolution, which is not fully taking advantage of the 3D capabilities and the resolution that this TV has. As we saw just looking at Avatar: The Way of the Water just now, and then the 2D 3D conversion on YouTube, it was pretty good resolution and clarity. These games are going to be a little bit lower, and it's still playable. Like, it's cool to be able to play these games in 3D like this. And like, the best thing of all is that I could do this. Sorry, I'm just butchering this race right now, but I could play this game just like watching movies. It doesn't have to be a single person experience. You could have multiple people in the same room watching this game in 3D all at the same time, which is really the killer thing about this type of experience. Like, that's what this TV does that you really can't get with anything else. You can gather together with people and game together in 3D without wearing glasses, and that's just really revolutionary in my opinion. Alright, let's check out the other games. Next up is the classic Prince of Persia trilogy collection, and I'm just going to pick the original. Just starting out on the menu, if I go to 2D mode, that you can see that the image is broken into the left and right images. So even this menu is going to be in 3D when we make the TV display in side-by-side mode. So let's go left and right 3D, and then now the menu is displaying in 3D. Already looks pretty cool. The text here and the press start to begin compared with the background is completely separated out. So I'm going to load up a game and then check it out. And here we go. So this is working in 3D, and it's crazy how much depth you're getting with this game. Like, this throne room area, I'm kind of lost in this game right now, so I don't know where to go, but you can see that this whole throne room area is very much in 3D. There's a ton of depth to this scene, and then the main character, the prince, is popping out of the screen. It looks nice and smooth as you move, even if you were in combat, for example. When you come up close to objects, they start to pop out of the screen too. And then even in cutscene type situations like this, it also looks good in 3D. So as I played through this game a little bit, in general it just feels like this. You know, there are outdoor areas, a lot of parkour elements in this game where you're climbing up stuff, jumping around, and it all feels really smooth. And it's cool to play in 3D because you get that extra sense of depth. And you can see, you know, like where you are in relation to each object and pillar. This title on PlayStation 3 in particular has done a really nice job of implementing the 3D to make it feel really like an immersive 3D effect. When you switch views like this too, you can see things from different angles in real time, but it's still in 3D, so that's also pretty cool. Like, that's one of the unique elements of this game, is to be able to shift the view to like a very distant angle when you're outdoors. I mean, you can see how far away we are now from the character. This is not something that's super typical in games, but it's cool combining this with the 3D effect, because then you get two entirely different views of the way you're playing the game. You can play up close normally, or just put yourself very far from the character as you're playing, almost like a bird's eye view or far off to the side, and it gives you a new angle, but it's still in 3D, so that's another thing that I really like about this game. Alright, so that's 2 out of 3 that are working in 3D. If we just open up this game's options and we go to display, you can see 3D stereoscopy can be turned on and off at any time. 3D intensity can be adjusted. So I have it at the maximum level, but you can adjust it based on your preferences, and then combine that with the 3D depth adjustments that this TV supports to find just the right balance between the 3D settings on this TV and the 3D settings within the game. It can be a bit of a pain, but once you find that right level, then the games actually feel really nice and smooth, and it's super cool to play them in 3D. The last different type of game we're going to take a look at today is Sonic the Hedgehog Sonic Generations, which should look pretty cool in 3D if it actually works. But before we do that, I just want to mention some good news that I have about this TV. which is a lot of people mentioned that it would be nice if this TV was more affordable. That would make it easier for people to consider such an expensive TV, because the base price is $4,950 or so. So I actually contacted Proma and asked if they would be willing to offer the TV at any sort of discount to my viewers. And thankfully he was actually cooperative and agreed to give a $1,500 discount, limited to 5 people, but $1,500 off the price of this TV. It's still expensive, but that brings it down below the level of the Vision Pro. With the Vision Pro, you know, it's expensive, but it's really a single person experience. The great thing about this TV, as you're seeing with the games, the movies, TV, and everything, is that it's a shared experience. You're getting really this amazing 3D experience that you can share with everyone. So $1,500 off brings that price down to $3,450, I believe. So for some of you, if you had been thinking about getting this and just feeling like it's just too expensive, that was the best that I could do to see, you know, if there's a way to at least make it accessible to some people who would have normally considered this but just felt that a close to $5,000 price point is too high. Instead of taking money myself, I just wanted to make sure that the biggest discount gets to as many people as possible, and that's why he's able to offer $1,500 off this TV. And the other thing is that there is one more product, a 65-inch TV. I can't completely vouch for it myself because I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but what they say about it is that the depth and the pop-out are less, but the overall 3D comfort and stability of the display is higher with that other model. For this one, I think it's enough, especially for 3D movies, multiple people viewing it. And the other thing that we will probably see at some point, somehow it hasn't happened yet, is that this TV actually has problems with 3D games on PS3. We really got lucky that we didn't see it in Gran Turismo or in Prince of Persia. But usually when I try to game on this thing, what happens is the right view suddenly drops, and then it goes back into 2D or a fuzzy 2D mode. And in order to fix it, you have to turn the TV off and then turn it back on, which can be a bit time-consuming and annoying if it happens repeatedly in a short span of time. So it's not that gaming on this thing is impossible. As we just saw, you can game in 3D on this, and multiple people can view it all at the same time. The problem is, it just isn't like fully compatible to the point where it just sort of crashes out of 3D mode every once in a while, and it can be quite random. Sometimes it happens literally 30 seconds at a time, multiple times in a row, and then you get a whole streak of 30 minutes of gaming with no problem after that. It's really unpredictable, and it can be anywhere from a little bit of an annoyance to completely frustrating and ruin the experience. The reason I'm saying this is because obviously you need to know that, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen when we play Sonic, when we play this final game. I wanted to be able to show you the problem if it actually shows up. But the other reason is that with their 65-inch TV, Proma says that that model has a different chip in it that actually is compatible with the PS3 fully, and it can handle the 3D signal better, so it doesn't crash and is fully compatible. So that's the downside, and one reason why you might want to choose that larger screen size and that other TV model over this one for the additional 3D comfort, less pop-out, less depth, but also full support for 3D gaming on PS3. Whereas this one, it works, but it tends to crash out of 3D mode. Alright, so that's enough of the explanation. Maybe we'll see some of those issues crop up as we play this last game, Sonic Generations. Let's pop this in and see how it goes. We got Sonic the Hedgehog. Just to start out, I am slightly suspicious that it's already crashed out of 3D mode, or that we've already lost the right image and the 3D is no longer working. To test that, we just open the menu, as I suspected. So right off the bat, this game actually lost the right side view, which means it's trying to display in 3D, but it can't because all we got is the left signal. To fix this, as I said, hit the power button, turn the TV off, turn it right back on, and it takes about this much time to get it back on until it gets back on. Once it's back on, then, after it takes about 30 seconds to do that, so it's kind of a pain. Once you turn the TV back on, usually 90% of the time you have the right view restored, which means we can just go back to our menu, go to 3D mode, make sure we're still on left and right mode, and then you just hit return without doing anything. You don't have to change anything, just come to the menu and then exit, and then it goes back into 3D mode. And I think the settings of this game are just messed up, so we gotta go in. Let's change it to medium, because this game has crazy depth. Normally you would have to spend some time to play around and find the right settings for your game. This is the other way it fails, and I don't understand the difference. Like, sometimes you'll lose the right view, and sometimes it'll just randomly shift to this top-bottom orientation that actually doesn't work. We're still in left and right mode, side by side, and it messed up the whole display because of that. But even if we go to this TV's up-down 3D mode and try to view it this way, it still doesn't work. So if I change it to 2D mode, now you can see that it's unstable for some reason. Like, it keeps flickering on and off. I don't know what's causing this. And then there's a top image and a bottom image, but the up-down 3D mode doesn't really work with this. So the way to fix this is the same as we just did. You gotta turn the TV off and then back on. Sometimes unplugging the HDMI will do it. We can try that really quick. Plug it back in. It actually worked. So that is the quickest way. The first thing I would recommend trying is to just do that. Unplug the HDMI, plug it back in, and now it's right back into 3D mode without having to go back to the menu. So that is much faster than turning the TV off, because then you have to wait for like 30 seconds when you turn the TV back on for it to load everything back up. Now, to finish this video off, I'm just going to try a stage and we'll see if it holds up and sticks in 3D mode as we're playing. Gonna play the classic Green Hill Zone stage in 3D. And here we go. So this is a really fast-paced game, and you're getting pretty crazy 3D depth. I am not really comfortable sitting up this close to the TV for this game in particular. This one looks really cool in 3D. So I went ahead and I actually changed the depth of this game, the TV depth settings to low, because this game has crazy depth and I really couldn't handle the 3D. One other thing you could do, just to make it perfect, I mean, for the sake of time, I didn't go in and adjust the settings in this Sonic the Hedgehog game, but you could do that and then leave the TV settings on high. That might be the better way to do it. That way you're getting really good pop out and depth from the TV, but then you're toning down the depth settings within this game. But this is just insane. I mean, it's beautiful. But you still got the same problem that I mentioned before, which is that the resolution is really limited because of the PS3 3D resolution limit. But as long as you are aware of that going into gaming on PS3 in 3D, it's awesome because you can play like this and then with a group of people enjoy 3D games together. It really is a one-of-a-kind experience that I don't think you can do any other way. So far it's not crashing, but that problem that we saw come up on the menu happens mid-game, so it could drop out of 3D mode at any moment and you never know when it's going to happen, but as long as it's working, it really is a joy to play, and this TV technically does support. When it works, when it doesn't work, it doesn't. So that's about all I can say. I mean, to me, I've played enough games on it so far and tested these out, and I know that it works in 3D. I just have to put up with the fact that sometimes during gaming sessions it's going to drop out of 3D mode, and I tested it a few more times just now. Unplugging and replugging in the HDMI really is the fastest way to do it. Like, that will most of the time instantly fix the issue. So yeah, this is how 3D gaming looks on this TV. Supports subtitles in 3D, 2D to 3D conversion for games and video, including digital rights management protected content like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and other streaming services, and also supports, to some extent, gaming on PS3 in 3D. Personally, I am super happy that I have this TV. I do wonder, how the 65-inch model that fully supports 3D gaming on PS3 and that supposedly has more comfortable viewing in 3D looks compared to this, but to me this is enough, and I'm really happy that I have it. I watched a ton of 3D Blu-rays on it, and if you really are into 3D and you want to be able to enjoy content with other people, seriously is worth some consideration. If you are interested in that $1,500 discount on this TV, limited to 5 people, just reach out to me or reach out directly to Proma and tell them that you watched this video and say you want that discount and you're considering either this TV or the 65-inch model, which is more expensive, but the discount is the same, $1,500 off. That pretty much covers everything that I think needs to be said about this TV, but if you do happen to have any other questions, there are technically some other things that you could do with it by plugging in your PC to this, for example. If you have a laptop and you connect it through HDMI, you can display anything directly from that laptop on this TV. So let me know if you have other questions. I could potentially make more videos in the future if there's specific things you want to see. And I'm going to try to capture some of this 3D effect using my VR camera and throw that on my other channel so that you can see directly, more clearly, how this 3D effect actually looks when you view it in 3D. If you enjoyed this, you might enjoy these videos as well, so check those out. The other videos on this channel, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. That's it for this video on this TV. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.